So welcome to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we're going over the GCSE Maths past paper of November 2024, the Foundation Tier Paper 1, which is the non-calculator paper. Now before we get started working through this paper, a little reminder that in the description below I'll include a question breakdown so you can see which question relates to which mathematical topic. So if you get stuck on a particular question, you can look back and see what topic it is. And I'll also include a link to the 162 Maths contents page, which gives you easy access to lots of maths lessons, exam paper walkthroughs and other revision materials. So let's get started on question 1. So question 1a says write down the value of the square root of 49, and you should find that 7 times 7 equals 49, so the answer is 7. Next question for 1b, it says work out the value of 3 cubed. Well, 3 cubed is 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3 is 27. Then moving on to question 1c, it says write 10,000 as a power of 10. So for this, all we need to do is start with our 10. And it's just a case of counting how many zeros we have, which we have 4. So it's 10 to the power 4. For question 2, it says 1 pound equals 16 ounces. Work out the number of ounces in 3 pounds. So what we just need to do is just multiply 16 by 3. So you can either do 16 times 3, which 6 times 3 is 18. Carry the 1. 3 times 1 is 4. Carry the 1. 3 times 1 is 3. Carry the 1 is 4. So the answer is 48. Or alternately, you could just do 16, 16 plus 16, add them all up, and you should still get the same answer. On to question 3, it says write 3 over 2 as a mixed number. So for this, what we need to do is see how many 2's go into 3. Well, that's going to be 1 with a remainder of 1, and our original divisor was 2. And again, one way you could do this is if you do this, so you've got 1 remainder 1, so this number here is that number there, the remainder is the numerator on the little fraction, and the original divisor, which is this number here, is our denominator in the little fraction. Then for 3b, it says work out 1/5 plus 1/5. Well, you can see that the denominators are the same, so we just need to add the numerators together, which gives us an answer of 2/5. Then for question 4a, it says write down all the factors of 20. So what you want to do here is see what numbers divide into 20 without leaving any remainders. So we can do 1 times 20, we can do 2 times 10, we can do 4 times 5, and that's pretty much it. And what your factors are all of those numbers. So it's 1, 20, 2, 10, 4 and 5, and all we need to do is just write those numbers down. So we've got 1, 2, 4, 5, 10 and 20. Now it's always recommended that you write them in alphabetical numerical order from either smallest to largest or largest to smallest. It's just to help marking, but also to help you as well, because what you can find when you do it in numerical order is you can do 1 times 20, 2 times 10 and 4 times 5. Then for 4b, it says Micah says that when 2 multiples of 5 are added, the answer is always a multiple of 10. Give one example to show that he is wrong. So in this particular example, we want to show that Micah is wrong. So if we just pick 2 multiples of 5, now multiple of 5 are 2 numbers that appear in the 5 times table. So if I was to do 5 plus, let's say 10, that's going to give me 15, and 15 is not a multiple of 10, so that would be fine for one possible answer. So basically, as long as your answer ends in a 5, you'll be fine with that, and obviously the 2 numbers you've used to add together are in the 5 times table. Moving on to question 5, it says put these values in order of size starting with the smallest. Now when you come to ordering fractions, decimals, percentages, I always recommend students to convert each of the 3 things into the same type. So either convert them all into decimals, all into fractions, all into percentages. Now the easiest out of all of those is to work them out as decimals. So 80% as a decimal is 0.8. 0.7 is already a decimal, and 3/4 is 0.75. And then what you can then do is make them so that they've all got the same number of numbers after the decimal point. So as you can see, out of these three numbers, 0.7 is the smallest, so we've got 0.7, and then we've got 3/4, and then we've got 80%. Now, a question I always get asked is, can we use the decimal? If we've converted all the numbers into decimals, can we just write the answer using decimals? Yes, but I would always recommend students to write them in their original form. But again, for working out, obviously writing it like this in decimals is going to be easier, but I would always recommend writing the final answer using the original format. Moving on to question 6, it says Sally buys 2 hats and 3 scarves. The total cost is £28.50. Each hat costs £4.50. Work out the cost of each scarf. So if we're buying 2 hats, so 2 hats, that's going to be 2 times 4.5, £4.50, and that comes up to a total of £9. Now to work out the remaining amount, so the remaining amount, we do £28.50 minus £9. So using subtraction, we've got 0, 5, we borrow 1, and that becomes 18, so that becomes £19.50. And what we need to then do is that is the price of 3 scarves. So if £19.50 is 3 scarves, then all we then need to do is to divide 3 by £19.50. So then doing division, 3's into 1 goes 0, carry the 1. 3's into 19 goes 6, remainder 1. Remember the decimal point. 3 goes into 15 5 times and then goes into 0. So the price of 1 scarf is £6.50. Moving on to question 7, it says 120 people visit a maze, 80 are children and the rest are adults. At the start of the maze you can turn left or you can turn right. 45 children turn left and 75 people in total turn left. Complete the frequency tree. Now when you're doing frequency tree questions, it's always recommended, probably easiest and logically set up, that you do it in sort of chronological order. So the information that's given is probably the order that you want to work with. So if I just zoom out so we can see the frequency tree in all its thing, and also with the information. Apologies if it's struggling to see. It's usually useful if you've got these obviously in front of you, then it's not too bad. So these two numbers here need to add up to 120. Now in the first bit of information we've been given, we know that there are 80 children. So this number here is going to be 80. So to work out this number here, I'm going to do 120 minus 80, which is 40. Now it then says in the second bit of information that you can either turn left or right. 45 children turn left. So from the children, 45 turn left. So then to work out this number here, I'm going to do 80 minus 45, which gives me an answer of 35. Now it then says that 75 people turn left. So then to work out how many adults turn left, I need to do 75 minus the number of children, which is 45, and that gives me an answer of 30. And that leaves my remaining little bit that I need to fill out is just 40 minus 30, which is 10. So our completed frequency tree should look like that. Then for B, it then says what fraction of the children turn left. Give your answer in its simplest form. So here we're just looking at the children, and the number of children is 80. And let me try to use a thinner pen. And out of those children, how many turn left? Well, that's going to be 45. So the fraction we need to simplify is 45 over 80. So what number goes into 45 and 80? Well, that's going to be 5. So we do 45 divided by 5, which is 9, and 80 divided by 5, which is 16. And then we can check to see if there's any other numbers that go into both 9 and 16, and there isn't. So my final answer is 9 over 16. Now, if you wrote any other fraction or left your answers 45 over 80, obviously you would lose a mark because the question specifically asked you to write it in its simplest form. Let's just zoom in on that because I forgot to zoom in on that question. Moving on to question 8, it says the table shows information about where students prefer to revise, and we've got 3 options of library, home and in class. Ed draws a bar chart to represent the data, and the question's asking write down 3 mistakes that he has made. So let's have a look at the numbers. So let's have a look. So from the library, so as you can see, we've got in a bar chart you should have equal gaps, which we have got. So looking at the frequencies, library is 30. So let's just try and position that so we can see everything on there. So in terms of frequency for library, that's correct. Library for home, so every little box represents 2. And as you can see, that should be there. So the first mistake that I can spot is that the home bar is short. And you could say it should be 68, not 66. And 37, yeah, I would say for the class it is correct. Now the second mistake I can see, which may be more obvious, is that the in-class bar is too wide. And when you're drawing the bar chart, all the widths of your bars should be the same. And as you can see, that the width of the in-class is too wide. And then looking at the third mistake, let's have a look. We've got, just check that we have got the axes labeled correctly. So we've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. That's correct. Let's have a look at the total. That's fine. So I would say that the third mistake potentially is that the vertical bar is not labeled. I would say there. Then moving on to question 9, it says a number is picked at random from the first 3 positive odd numbers, and a number is picked at random from a number of the first 4 prime numbers. The 2 numbers are multiplied together to get a score. Complete the table. So the first 4 prime numbers are 2, 3, and the missing number there is 5. And the first 3 odd numbers are 1, 3 and 5, and so all we then need to do is complete the grid by multiplying. So 2 times 1 is 2, 3 times 1 is 3, 5 and 7, 3 times 2 is 6, 9, 15 and 21, and 10, 25 and 35. And so that completed grid would give us the four marks. Then for question 9b, it says, what is the probability that a score is a square number? Give your answer as a fraction. So from the numbers and the 15 that I've written that are there in the table, we want to kind of highlight which numbers are square numbers. So we've got 9 is a square number, 25 is a square number, and that is it. So we've got a fraction of 2 out of 12, which gives us an answer of 1/6. Now, because the question doesn't actually specify to give our answer in its simplest form, either of these 2 fractions would be good enough for the full 2 marks. Moving on to question 10a, it says simplify fully 8m plus 4 minus 2m plus 7. So here, if we look at the m's, we've got 8 take away 2, which gives me 6m, and then I've got 4 plus 7, which is 11. Then for question 10b, it says simplify fully a half c times 6d. So multiplying the numbers, we get a half times 6, which gives me 6 over 2, which is 3. And c times d is cd. Then moving on to question 11, it says that a multi-pack costs 10% less than 6 single bags. Work out the cost of a multi-pack. So let's have a look at this. So for this, what we need to do is work out 6 lots of the small bags. So that's 6 times 55 pence. So that's 55, 55, 55, 55, 55, and 55. Now 2 55s gives us £1.10. So that's going to be £1.10 and that's going to be £1.10. Give us a total of £3.30. Now if a multi-pack costs 10% less than 6 bags, then 10% of £3.30 is 33 pence. So then the price of a multi-pack is going to be, which I'm running out of space, so multi-pack is going to be £3.30 minus 33 pence, which gives us an answer of £2.97. Moving on to question 12, it says write the ratio 6:2 in the form of n/1. So when we've got a ratio of 6:2 and we want to write it in the ratio of something to 1, then what you then need to do is first decide which side the 1 is, which is on the right hand side, and think to yourself, what do I need to do to get from 2 to 1 by multiplying or dividing? So here I need to divide by 2, so that means I need to divide the 6 by 2, giving me an answer of 3:1. Then it says for question 13, x and y are two different positive numbers. For each statement, tick the correct box. So if x and y are positive numbers, then let's just pick, let's say x is 5 and y is 2. Then if I add the two numbers, I'm going to get a positive answer, so that's always going to be true. Then for x and y is always negative, well, if for one example, if I did 5 minus 2, which gives me 3, which is a positive number, but let's say x was 2 and y was 5, then that would be 2 minus 5, which gives me minus 3. So as you can see, the answer could be positive or negative. So the box we need to tick then is that it's sometimes true. Moving on to question 14a, it says on the grid, draw a shape that is congruent to triangle A. Now the word congruent basically means exactly the same. So the same size. So looking at this, starting at a starting point, which I'm just going to label here, we're going 3 down, which is here, and then to get to this point here, I go 3 across and 1 up. So 3 across and 1 up, which is there. And then all that's left for me to then do is join those points together, in which you should have something that looks like this, and we'll just label that A dash. Then for B, it says on the grid, enlarge the shape B by scale factor of a third. So what we need to do is make this shape B 3 times smaller. So picking a starting point, which I'm just going to pick here, as you can see, we've got going across, we've got 3 squares. So if you divide that by 3, we get 1. So that's going to be there. Going up, we've got 6 squares. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. So that's going to be there. Going up here is 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. So all we then need to do now, with this, you will definitely need to use a ruler, but it's a bit difficult on the computer to do that. And what you should have is something that looks like that. That's going to be B dash. Then moving on to question 15, it says 35 books are either for adults or children. Number of adults to number of children is 6:1. How many more books are for adults than are for children? So here we've got a total of 35 and we've got a ratio of 6:1. So what we need to do is work out how many the difference between the adult books and the children books. So we do 35 divided by total number of parts, which is 7, giving me 5. And then we've got 6:1, multiply both those numbers by 5, in which we get 30, and we get 5. So this is the number of adult books, this is number of children books, and so the difference that's turned into a square is going to be 30 minus 5, which gives me an answer of 25. Moving on to question 15, it says this shape is made from a semicircle and a square. On the centimetre grid below, make an accurate drawing of the shape. So for this, we know it's a square. So if I just make it so it's a semicircle and a square. So that means that this length here is going to be 6, this length here is going to be 6, and the radius of this circle equals 3 centimeters. So what we then need to do is draw a square and a circle of 3, in which your diagram should look something that looks like this. And then what you could do is you could rub out this line here, but on the mark scheme they would allow it, but that's basically what you want to try and get. So if I just get rid of that, and you can rub this out, but I would strongly recommend using a ruler and a compass to draw that shape accurately. And again, the measurements are 6, 6, 6, and the center is going to be 3 squares in, and the radius is 3. Moving on to question 17, it says that a car travels 4 miles in 5 minutes. Work out the average speed in miles per hour. So if we start by writing this down, we've got 4 miles over 5 minutes. Now with this, what you want to do is you want to convert this into hours. So if we multiplied, well, if we turn how many minutes are there in an hour, that's going to be 60. So what we're wanting is this bottom number to be 60 minutes. So from this, what do we need to multiply 5 to get 60? Well, I need to multiply that by 12. So if I multiply the numerator by 12, so 4 times 12 gives me 8. It's going to be 48 miles. And so that fraction then is going to be 48 miles per hour. So the number I need to write is 48. Moving on to question 18, it says J is at the coordinate of 0, 12, K is at the coordinate of 5, 10, are points on a straight line of J, K, L, M. And it says J, K, K to L, L to M are the same distance, and the question is asking us to work out the coordinates of M. Now this question is quite popular. I've seen it appear a few times already. So to work this out, we can see that if I join the points of K, J to K, we see we've got a triangle. Now the difference in the y ordinate, which is the second number in the coordinate, is 2. So that means that triangle has got a height of 2. And the difference in the x ordinate is 5. So that means the triangle's got a base of 5. So then if I repeat that triangle, so this point here is 12, sorry, that's going to be 10. And this point here is 0, that point is 5, and to work out this point here I'm going to go 2 down, so that's going to be 8, and 5 across, so that's going to be 10. And then if I repeat that triangle, I'm going to go down 2, which is 6, and across 5, which is going to give me 15. And from that I can then use these two numbers here to work out the coordinate of M, which is 15, 6. And make sure you're writing the coordinate in the correct order. It's across the corridor and up the stairs. Then moving on to question 19, it says work out the value of 1.5 squared. So for this, what we need to do is we need to do 1.5 multiplied by 1.5. Now how you do this is entirely up to you. Most students would convert them into whole numbers, do the multiplying, in which we get 225, and then we've moved the decimal point a total of 2 places in that direction, giving me an answer of 2.25. Moving on to question 20, it says complete the number machine so that y equals 4x plus 5. So for this, we're starting with x. The first thing we do is multiply it by 4, and then we add 5, and that equals y. Then says complete the number machine so that y equals 3x minus 24. So because the last thing we do is multiply by 3, for this what we need to do is factorize 3x plus 24. So y equals 3, and then what do you have to multiply x to get 3x is x, and what do we have to multiply 3 to get 24? That's going to be 8, so it's minus 8. So looking at this expression here, we are taking away 8 first and then multiplying by 3. It then says complete the number machine so that y equals x. Well, what we want to do is, in this step here, is do the opposite of what's in this block here. So the opposite of multiplying by 6 is to divide by 6. Now moving on to question 21, it says each number in a list is increased by 10. Tick one box for each statement. So for this particular question we're working with averages, so let's start by randomly picking 3 numbers. So because I'm dealing with the mode, I want 2 numbers repeated, so let's go for 5, 5, and let's go for 10. So if I add 10 to every single one of these numbers, so that's going to be 15, that's going to be 15, and that's going to be 20. Now looking at the green numbers, the mode is 5, the median is 5, and the range is 5. Then if I look at the purple numbers, I've got a mode of 15, I've got a median of 15, and a range of 5. So let's have a look, see if these are true. So comparing the green numbers to the purple information, let's have a look. The mode is increased by 10. Well, looking at the mode, I've got a mode of 5, and here I've got a mode of 15. So has the mode been increased by 10? Yes, it has. The median is increased by 10. So looking at the median, we had original median of 5, and now it's 15. So that is going to be true. And the range is increased by 10. Well, the original range is 5, and the range is still 5. So that is false. Moving on to question 22a, it says write the missing term in the geometric sequence. Now, what we're looking at a geometric sequence is that to get from one term to the next, it's being multiplied by a certain number. So here, to get from 1 to 4, what number do we multiply 1 to get 4? Well, that's going to be 4. So the common ratio here is multiplying by 4. So to find this number here, I'm going to do 16 times 4. And so if I just work that out, I get 6 times 4, which is 24, and 1 times 4, which is 4, plus 2 is 6. So the answer, the missing number, is 64. It then says for 22b, a Fibonacci sequence begins 5 and minus 9. The sequence is continued by adding the previous 2 terms. Work out the next 2 terms. So if I just write 2 dashes, this is what I need to work out. Now to find this number here, I'm going to add 5 and minus 9. So 5 plus minus 9. Well, I've got a plus and a minus in the middle, so that turns into a minus. So it's 5 minus 9, which is minus 4. And then to work out this number, I'm going to do minus 9 plus minus 4. And again, I've got a plus and a minus, so that turns into a minus. So it's minus 9, or negative 9 minus 4, which is minus 13. So my 2 missing numbers are minus 4 and negative 13. Moving on to question 23, it says here is a solid prism, and it says how many faces does the prism have? Well, to work out the faces, it's just a case of counting the sides. So we've got 1, 2, and then we've got 6 going along there. So we've got 2 plus 6, which gives us 8 faces. Then it says the prism has a volume of 350 cubic centimeters and a length of 20. Work out the cross-sectional area of the prism. Now the volume is equal to the area of the cross-section multiplied by the length. So if the volume is 3500 multiplied, I'll just call the area, which is x, multiplied by 20. So what we've got to do here is do 3500 divided by 20. And to work this out, we can either use long division, or what we can do is cancel the zeros. So I'm going to do 350 divided by 2. So halving 350 gives me an answer of 175. And again, if you're not sure how I did that, we can just use bus stop method for division, or half 300, half 50, and we get an answer of 175. Moving on to question 24, it says work out 1 1/5 minus 3/10 and give your answer as a fraction. Now when we've got a calculation involving mixed numbers and fractions, what you want to do here is convert the mixed fraction into an improper fraction first. So 1 1/5, well, to do this we multiply the big number by the bottom number, which is 5, add the 1, which gives us 6, so it's 6/5 minus 3/10. Now when we're subtracting, we want to make the denominators the same, so you think of a number that the smallest number that appears in the 5 times table and the 10 times table, which is going to be 10. Other numbers do exist, so any number in the 5 times table, that's all, and also the 10 times, any number in the 10 times table, I should say, will be an absolute fine denominator. But the smallest denominator is going to be 10, so we've multiplied this fraction by 2 over 2, so that's going to be 12 and 3, and then once the denominator is the same, we subtract the numerators together, so that's going to be 9 over 10, and we can't simplify that, so my answer is 9/10. Moving on to question 25, it says write down the value of sine 90. Now sine 90, using the exact values of trig, is going to be 1. Moving on to question 26, it says that a large circle and a small circle are shown. The radius of the large circle is 12 centimeters. The radius of the large circle to the radius of the small circle is 4:1. And the question is asking us to work out the shaded area, give your answer in terms of pi. So looking at this, if we look at the radiuses of the large circle and the small circle, we've got a ratio of 4:1, and we know that the large circle has got a radius of 12 centimeters. So that means that 4 parts is 12. So therefore 1 part is going to be 12 divided by 4, which is 3. So that's 3 centimeters. Now the shaded area, if I just get a thinner pen to write with, so the shaded area is equal to the area of the big circle minus the area of the small circle. So that's the calculation that we do, and remember that the area of a circle equals pi r squared. So using these numbers here as our radiuses, so the area of the big circle is going to be pi times 12 squared, which is 144 pi. The area of small circle is going to be pi times 3 squared, which is 9 pi. And then all I then need to do is subtract the 2. So the shaded area is 144 pi minus 9 pi, leaving me with 135 pi. Then moving on to question 27, it says, in this part, assume that each person works at the same rate. So it says 10 people complete a job in 9 hours. If 15 people work in the same job, how many hours will it take to complete the job? Now for this particular question, there's a couple of things. You want to use your common sense. If we've got more people doing a job, then it's going to take less. So we're looking for an answer that is going to be less than 9 hours. Now what you want to do with these particular questions is find the total job hours. Now in this information it says that we've got 10 people working 9 hours. So that's going to be 10 times 9. So this is a 90-hour job. Now if we've got 15 people, then we need to do is just 90 divided by 15. And then you want to see how many 15s go into 90. And again, a couple of ways in which you can work that calculation out. You can just start by adding 15s, then 30, 45, 60, 75, 90, and then just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's going to take 6 hours. It then says, in fact, of the 15 people, 6 work at a slower rate, 9 work at a faster rate. What does this mean about the hours, number of hours it will take to complete the job? So if 6 people are working slower, 9 people are working at a faster rate, let's have a look at what they could be. So the options are, it's either greater than A. Well, it's not going to be greater than A, because what we've got is we haven't got an equal split of 7.5, which you can't have. So it's definitely not going to be the first one. The same rate as A, well, that's not going to be, potentially it could be the case, but it all depends on how slow those 6 people are working and how fast those 9 people are saying. So I would tick the box of that it's not possible to say, because you don't know the exact rates of those 6 and 9 people. For example, the 6 people would literally do the bare minimum, and those 9 people can do work so efficiently they might as well just do it themselves, then it's difficult to say whether it's going to be a quicker job, a slower job, or it stays the same. So the one you want to tick here is that it's not possible to say. And that concludes the end of this paper.